Hi everybody, David Lindstedt here, and we're going to talk about organizational resilience, and we're going to talk about navigating the strangeness of organizational resilience. And organizational resilience is a strange thing. It's fraught with tensions and paradoxes, and the one I'm really going to focus on today is going to be letting go of control, which is going to be very, very difficult, I think, for the senior leaders and other leaders who are going to have to work to build the capabilities of organizational resilience in the first place. So if I can get buttons to work, this is going to be based on research that I did for the book Building Resilient Organizations Through Change, Chance, and Complexity. So let's begin and see what strangeness we can get into. What I want to talk about first is that rocks aren't resilient, and this is going to matter for a number of reasons, oddly enough. Particularly in America, we have a lot of the ideal leader, the ideal, particularly man image as being unchanging, as being stoic, as being like a rock. This is the advertisement, particularly in the late 90s, for the Silverado truck. But rocks aren't resilient. Rocks are solid, they're strong, they're unaffected, they're unchanging, they're unmoving. They simply withstand whatever is thrown at them, or they don't. They shatter or they wear down. So if rocks aren't resilient, what is resilience? And in fact, this is part of why I wrote the book in the first place. There's very little understanding about resilience. So let's talk about that. So where the heck did this term come from? Really, so this is the Google Books Ngram viewer that shows the usage of words over time. And we can see that we don't really get any talk of resilience until after the publication of The Origin of Species in 1859. And so we have a lot of talk then about natural selection, which eventually then brings us to talk about, if there are some species that get weeded out, there are some species that survive, and that gets us through natural selection, and that gets us through a resilient species, a resilient organism. But boy, it's not until the 2000s, until incredibly recently, and of course with COVID, that the term resilience gets used much at all. This is a very new word. This is a very new concept. And look, just to put a very fine point on this, Stephanie Duchek's research paper in 2019 says this very clearly. Look, there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of discussion now about organizational resilience, but there is very little research, there is very little consensus. And so to introduce a little bit of controversy, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, one of the opening pages of Risk Proof, which I assume is a pun, proof of risk, not that we would ever possibly be risk-proof, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. But they say, while the concept of resilience and its importance is well understood, ... Well, its importance might be, but the concept clearly is not. And that's part, again, why I wrote the book on this. I don't think we have a clear concept of resilience because I think we keep coming back to, and again, I'll go back to this, grit and determination. And in fact, as we look at some aspects, portions of Risk Proof, this framework does a nice job in many respects, but it often slides back into talk about the ability to quickly bounce